goes, oh, by the way, we got to fix that and clean that up. And that's when ABB said, hey, you know, we'll do that as a part of the Act 2, but you guys got to help us try to get some money, and there's a program to do that. So that's why the application was made for the grant. That was in the
But
agreement.
why, but why do we have to make them do that? Why wouldn't the DEP make, if you know, if the DEP knows there's a coal pile up there and knows that it needs to be remediated, it hasn't been touched, why isn't the DEP forcing ABB to do it? Why are we getting involved?
Yeah, I'm not
Question for an attorney.
I'm not sure what the reason is. All I know is they have a program all over the state where they try to clean those up. And they came out and looked at it, and they said, yeah, we can help clean this up. I think, Cindy, to get access to that money, I think you have to be a government entity. I'm not positive on that.
He said that ABB, and he's right, is a multi-billion-dollar Swiss company. Why do they have to come to Cecil Township and take federal grant money to clean up a coal pile that they should clean up themselves?
That's a good question.
Let's be honest, they can't apply for that grant money. Only a municipality can apply for that grant money. And that's why we got involved to begin with. Because they don't want to clean it up, and they want us to get involved and start cleaning up.
Do you have a question?
Yeah, I have several. Like, why are we up there to begin with? My next question is, at any point, you know, Chairman Sabavic had mentioned that possibly a police station or a fire station or a public works station up there. Was there ever any consideration of any other property in the township to build our public works building? All of this could be avoided by just, instead of spending $500,000
Do you
on
have
a
questions
attorney?
for these two at the end? I don't know that that's something these two.
I'm
not sure that we decided as a majority of the board.
I don't mind answering
only the
that.
questions
I don't mind answering that
directed to
question,
them.
just that those were some topics, I guess, that when they submitted the application, they wanted to know, what would you do with this brownfield, and what would you like to do with it? So, was that not some of the questions that, or the things that were thought of and discussed? There was Tom, or someone in that meeting with the Washington County Redevelopment Authority, that they would help to separate that property and get it
Wait,
back on
time
the
out.
tax
What
books.
meeting with the Washington County Redevelopment?
Pardon me?
What meeting with the
Excuse
Washington
me,
County
this is
Redevelopment?
supervisor stuff.
Yeah. Good question. Chris, may I have a question for the
And
environmental
frankly,
engineer?
I'm offended at the notion that I can only ask the engineers questions tonight, because this meeting is supposed to be with the board and the engineers to answer our questions that we have as residents about the
The board
ABB.
has more questions than the residents are.
Well, they're asking.
Very well.
Wait till the end. I think
Regardless, I'm just saying that
So, yeah,
I should be allowed to stand
so
here and ask a question about
we
the
could-
ABB property at the ABB property meeting.
We could do a facility anywhere or other places. We don't have to build on it. The idea is to possibly get that brownfield turned into usable space, make it safe for the residents, for the school that's nearby, to also get
But everything
the
is-
industrial businesses put on that property that would create a tax revenue that would keep all of our taxes down. So
Do you think that-
those are all just thoughts
Okay,
on
do you
what could
think
be.
that I care about, do you think that it's more important to me to pay less in taxes than to have my children at that school be possibly exposed
Yeah, that's
to any of
very-
these chemicals that are out there?
No, don't put
You
words in my
think
mouth. That's very important. I have nephews that go there. My daughter taught there. It's very, very important. That's why I want to not do away with this agreement, is why I want to stay in the agreement.
This agreement is getting us
Let's
to more.
please address those questions when we have the agreement conversation.
Because you're gonna listen, because that night going in, you're gonna listen to all of our questions that night at the supervisors meeting, like you do every other supervisors meeting.
Public Works doesn't give you
That's not what we're here for. I came
Go ahead.
We're here to talk about the ABB property. I wanna know, I just want it to be known that it doesn't matter if, I don't care if it's a 1 in a million chance that there's a kid in that school that gets sick from us doing anything at this property. If there's a 1 in a million chance, it's not worth us doing anything up there. Nothing. It's worth nothing. It doesn't matter, it could be my kid, it could be your kid, I don't care whose kid it is. It's not worth it. And this meeting was supposed to be about us coming and talk to you all about our feelings about the ABB property, so that you can get the pulse of the community on how we feel about the ABB property. And here we are, and all you keep telling us is we have to only ask engineering questions when nobody here is an engineer. I mean, I'm sorry, you are. No, but we don't, how are we supposed to know the engineering questions to ask? You know, it's crap that you're not letting us all talk about what we really want to talk about, which is the fact that we don't want it up there because we don't want you messing around with that crap next to our school. That's it, thank you.
That's right, she is what she's doing.
But everybody has an opinion.
Right, she's giving hers.
Yeah, so you can just sit down.
Next, state name and address.
I didn't say I did, you assumed.
Karen
I
Stern,
didn't say I
58
agreed.
Holly. So I have a question about the Act 2 clearance part of this. So it's supposed to be giving liability relief. Does that mean it's liability relief from the date that the Act 2 clearance is granted?
Now, it essentially, the department isn't going to come back against, once that Act 2 is granted, it is from the date of the Act 2 being granted. But I've never heard of a case where the department has granted an Act 2 and then come back after somebody and said, oh, by the way, you let this pollution occur, 2 days before. I've never heard of that occur.
So again, the Act 2 is giving you liability relief from action by the DEP, correct?
Correct.
It has no protection for action by people in the community, for example, saying, hey, you exposed my children to these chemicals and we're going to sue you for it. That's not part of it at all, right?
The Act 2, it's the technical phrase, you're correct, it's called third-party liability. Act 2 cannot give you relief from third-party liability, but I do a lot of litigation support. I've never heard of a case, with the exception where supply wells, somebody's drinking water is impacted. I've never heard of a third-party lawsuit going forward once an Act 2 has been granted on a property, except cases where you have somebody's supply well impacted. And that, you see litigation with that all the time.
But theoretically, it's possible, if we take ownership of this property as Cecil Township, that we can get sued.
Third party, yeah, you can't, the department can't walk away from third party. They can't waive third party.
Right, so we're exposing ourselves to possible lawsuits by people who think they were affected by contamination on the property.
Again, okay, it's a legal question.
Okay,
It's a legal question.
We'll save it for our next party. Okay, I have a couple questions. So we mostly have been talking about arsenic and we've been talking about the dioxin pieces, but there are 16 constituents, right, that we're talking about that are present on the property.
Correct.
So the kids in the school and the surrounding community there, how do we understand what the effects would be of leaving it here, potentially, leaving it the way that it is, versus going in and doing something on the property? Say, there's air, you talked about air, you talked about ingestion, I don't think my kids aren't gonna run across the street and eat the dirt. But if you dig up a bunch of stuff and put it in the air, and my kids are on the playground across the street, that blows up over into the playground, then how can we get a breakdown of, this is real simple. Here is no remediation, and these are the potential exposures. Here is remediation, and here are the potential exposures during the remediation process. Like, it's a real basic this or that. Can we get that information?
The short answer is no, simply because we don't have all the data that we would need to be able to make that determination. The longer answer is, you said during remediation, you do work specifically with that, where the remediation is going to be required is going to be covering that soil, the bone pile, and possibly a couple of other areas where soil impacts are present. You have to pull together what's called a soil management plan as part of the Act 2 process, and it basically tells you how to prevent releases during remediation. So what will happen is they're going to have to keep this, let's use the Bodie, they have to keep that moist so you don't get particulates. They have to put erosion and sedimentation controls up. With those two practices, you don't get particulate, you don't get particulates or airborne. So that you're very careful about what you do during the process of remediating the voting pile.
Do we know if the school has public water source, or are there people with wells?
It's
It's
public water.
Are any of the people in the surrounding community going to get exposed to?
All public water.
It's all public water.
That's all.
Okay.
Yeah, and the constituents in groundwater, again, their groundwater, the impacts on groundwater are defined on the site. We've got enough wells that we understand the extent of groundwater on the property. So groundwater isn't, impacting groundwater isn't migrating off. You've got that 1,4-dioxane is migrating from groundwater, trickling into the little streams. That's why you're seeing those streams with the 1,4-dioxane. It's pretty, the extent of the impacts are located pretty close to the property. We've collected samples down gradient in those streams, and we don't see the 1,4-dioxane once you get a couple hundred yards downstream. And the reason for that is it's a pretty volatile constituent. Again, it doesn't want to stay in that water, it wants to come up into air. So it devolatilizes, partitions off, and goes up into the air. So you don't see it in the little streams very far downstream.
So I guess what I'm trying to say is, okay, I understood your example about the voting pile and how they're going to keep it wet so that it doesn't cause particulates to go in the air. But there's 16 other chemicals, and if they're airborne, possibly.
They're all treated the same. I used arsenic simply as the driver for what is going to require remediation. Most of the constituents that we see are in, the vast majority of the constituents that we see are in groundwater. And again, we have the extent of those impacts pretty well defined. They're all on site, haven't migrated off site. So you don't have to do anything with those constituents because they're not going to impact anybody, provided you don't allow anybody to put a supply well in. That's the control to fix that issue. You just can't drink the water.
The last question I have is, from right now today, if everyone, or no, sorry, May, whatever day, everybody's going to make a decision, said, okay, let's go forward. How long is it going to take till you can actually put a public works building up there?
Short answer is, I don't know.
But is
Because
it
you
like-
don't know what until you have to walk through the analytical data. The DEP they've got mandated 90-day review periods. If they have comments, you're pushed back 6 months. I mean, the process can take it can take a while. And
Like, what's the worst case scenario?
Several years. Yeah, several years. Yeah, absolutely several years.
So I guess I thought we needed a public works building like 2 years ago. So I'm kind of curious how we're gonna, I mean, it might be the, 3 more years or something like that. That just seems like if we need it, why don't we just go buy a piece of property that's 5 acres instead of 87 acres and just put our public works building up? That's my opinion of it. That's all.
Thank you, Karen. Yeah, our next. Oh, that's right. No. Sure will.
Come on, it's only 9 o'clock.
Yeah, ready to go.
30 comes early.
So, yeah, thank you all for coming. Hope to have that next.
Sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
My name is Heather Sensky. I'm a Cecil Township resident. I'm here because my friends and family, my cousins, and members that are very important to me will go to the Muse Elementary School. And I actually live in North Shore and graduated from Canada.